and welcome to UDA Technologies, a webinar. We're going to be covering what's new in Construction Online, our Summer 2019 edition. I'm joined by my colleague, Holly Gibson.
Hey everyone.
And we are really excited. We're just about to get started. If this is your first webinar with us, go ahead and take a look at the Go To Webinar panel where you'll find a section labeled Questions. While we're waiting for the last few people to join in on the webinar today, go ahead and send in a question, but tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you're most excited to learn more about today. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and if this is your first time joining us, say hello. We're looking forward to meeting you, and we're going to be jumping in just a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining in today, everyone. We're really excited to show you some of the recent enhancements that we've worked on in Construction Online. I know many of you are longtime UDA clients, but if you're new to Construction Online or new to UDA Technologies, a little bit about our company. This is our 20th anniversary year, so we've been doing software since 1999, and over that time, we've been able to serve just over 650,000 of you all over the world. And one of the things that has really remained constant over the years and that I've really enjoyed about my time here at UDA. I've been on board with our team for about 8 years now, and we just have such a great, I think, relationship with our customers, with you guys out there. And one of the ways that translates and that you see in the software here will be some of the enhancements and changes that you'll notice from time to time. Many of you guys are just so great about submitting feedback or telling us about things that you're excited to do and work with in Construction Online. And of course, we take note of all of that. So when we notice there's demand or areas where we can add in some fun new features that'll really give you an enhanced experience every single day. That's really part of how our team makes decisions about what projects to work on. So we're really excited to be able to show you guys some of what we've done recently here in tools like scheduling and calendars and some of the report options that we have. And we've also added in some brand new features and integrations, which are going to be really fun to look at today. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in, Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start today with schedules. We've added a ton of new enhancements to our scheduling tools inside of Construction Online. Now, you can see that we have opened up a project. We're going to go ahead and move right into the project schedule. If you have used Construction Online in the past, you probably immediately noticed these changes when they went live, but the first change that's really standing out, the thing that we've added, it's a matter of convenience, but we've made it really easy to go ahead and mark a scheduled task to let everyone know that it's been completed.
That's exactly right. You know, one of the things that we hear from clients when you guys are getting your schedule set up is that you, of course, invest that time and energy into project planning, getting your schedule really laid out so that you can have a great plan for your project. And we know that one of the keys to success there is making sure that you're able to keep that schedule up to date. One of the easiest ways to do that is just to be able to go through and really denote quickly what's been completed. And so this just makes it so much easier, I think, for your team to be able to do that. There's now a simple checkbox that you can go through and select just to mark off and denote those items as complete. Now, you can still, of course, open those individual tasks to do so, just like always, but this is really just giving you such a fast and easy way to keep that schedule updated.
Yeah, it's really convenient. This is something that we've had great feedback on ever since it went live. Now, speaking of feedback, we have definitely listened to some of the interface requests that have been made, specifically working with the Gantt chart. So we're going to start by talking about some of the schedule view updates that we've made. Now, what you'll find under the view menu inside of the scheduling toolbar is that there's a new section for schedule view options. We've added in some really exciting enhancements, not just for the Gantt chart, but that's where we're going to start. I think that these really stand out and make it very easy to read inside the Gantt chart itself, not only what task the bar represents, but also, if you would like, you can also see the task dates on the Gantt chart as well. It's a really tiny quality of life change that has a very significant effect. I've spoken with a lot of clients recently in different training sessions that I've been a part of or just throughout my day-to-day, and this has had a really positive feedback so far. So if you haven't turned this on, give it a look.
That's right. You'll notice now that I've turned that option on, you can see that on my Gantt chart, I have now chosen to display both the name of the task and the dates right here on the Gantt chart. So you can turn this on independently. You could show only the dates or only the names. So this is just going to be a great way to be able to get a little bit more information on that Gantt chart. I know many of you really like to look at a Gantt sort of primary view where we kind of slide this bar over and really are looking at as much of the Gantt chart as possible. And so this just allows you really to be able to see that information that might normally be contained here, your task dates and task names, on more of that Gantt view. So you've just got that information right at hand. Now, one of the other enhancements that we've made to scheduling in terms of the view and the control that you have there is we've also made in your list view and over here on your task list on the left, we've made it so that you can now control things like your column width or turn columns on and off. So you now will notice that if you right click in this area or go back to this schedule view options, you have a show and hide column section. So this allows you to control both on the Gantt view and the list view which columns are being shown. And once you've got those columns turned on that really line up with what you want to be able to see, then you can also come in and make some adjustments as to column width just to get it exactly right. One thing that I really enjoy doing when I'm working in a schedule is going into full screen mode. So that's going to give me a little bit more room. So I've got space to see more columns over here on the left, a little more room to adjust that. Whereas if you're working on a smaller screen, you might want to go ahead and make some of those a little bit more narrow. So you've got a lot of great options as far as how you're viewing the information in your schedule, both on that Gantt chart and on your regular list view as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really start to see how these two different updates work together when you compare or you look at what you can actually achieve by adjusting your own schedule input options here. So for instance, let's say that we wanted to focus in on scheduling resources in our schedule. Well, it's really easy. We can go ahead and adjust what columns are visible in the Gantt view, which previously in a lot of cases were only seen in perhaps the list view of the schedule. But now we can actually take our schedule, shift over to the right on the list view, and reference our scheduled tasks over here in the Gantt chart view while still keeping up with and identifying areas where we might need to go back in and assign certain people to the tasks. From this view, we can also tell or see if we have or have not set up a reminder yet. So with a few tiny changes to the way that you display your schedule, you can really take the tool and make it work for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, the goal behind the different view changes that we've made, and again, a lot of these do come from requests from you guys. What we find in working with so many of you doing different types of work is that even though, really the goal behind the schedule is mostly the same for each one of you, we want to come up with a great project plan, a great project timeline. Some of the things that you're needing to do day to day do differ from person to person and often the role within the company that they have. And so these options just really allow each user to be able to get what they need out of this scheduling tool.
Yeah, and some of the changes that we've made aren't just to the schedule view. We've also added in a brand new feature that you can turn on that really adds a lot of convenience to when you're actually building out or adjusting and adding new tasks to schedules. You'll find it inside of the same schedule options that we were discussing before. You'll find that there's a new option that's named Enable Automatic Predecessors. Now, this option is very powerful and it's also very convenient. When you enable this option, any new tasks that you add into a schedule will automatically link backwards to the previous tasks. So as you continue to push your schedules forward and as you continue to add tasks out inside of your schedule, what you'll see is that it will continue to daisy chain the tasks together. So this is really great when you're first putting together, say, like the initial critical path for your schedule, as you're scoping out the different items that absolutely must be inside of the schedule. And then, of course, it's really easy to turn that option back off so that from that point you can begin to add in different tasks that maybe aren't part of that initial critical path schedule, but still need to be part of the schedule as it stands.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it just makes it so much easier to have those adjustments happening again, automatically. We want to make it fast and easy. So you'll notice here that I've added a new task under foundation labor, and immediately as soon as I added that, went ahead and established that predecessor relationship for me. So that works great if you're needing to come in and maybe insert tasks in the middle of the schedule, make some adjustments perhaps to a template that you're using. It's really easy to see if we go to the bottom of the schedule and need to add some additional closeout tasks. So we'll come in and call this not cloud out, but close out. And as I'm adding those new ones, you can see that immediately we have a new task and that predecessor is set. So especially if you're coming in and typing in a list of tasks, I know we really encourage you guys to use templates wherever possible, but I know many of you do like to make those adjustments as you're building schedules. This is just a really fast and easy way to be able to come in, build your list of tasks, have those predecessor relationships established right as you're creating the schedule there.
Yeah, and of course, our predecessor system is intelligent and robust enough that when you insert a new task, not only will it attach or automatically define the predecessor for the new task, but any existing predecessor relationships will update to reflect the changes in the schedule as well.
That's right. Now, I know, we'll go ahead and shift over to some kind of outside of scheduling, but a little bit related. I know for many of you guys, once you've put your schedule together, a lot of times the next step is, being able to kind of print that up, get that distributed. And one of the most popular requests that we've seen is the ability to print this type of schedule in more of a calendar layout. So if you're using ConstructionOnline, you know that when you create a schedule, that schedule is going to automatically go ahead and show up on your project calendar. So you have that great calendar view. This schedule took place a couple of months ago, so that's showing up on my calendar here. So I've got task, everything is really laid out in a clear, easy to understand way. What we've done is add in a way for you to print this exact calendar view so that you can go ahead and distribute that to team members or print it up and stick it on your bulletin board. I know everyone really likes to go ahead and print out their calendars and schedules, so this is just a great way to be able to do that.
Absolutely, and it couldn't be easier. When you navigate over to your project calendar, you'll find there's a new button just at the very top right of the calendar itself, titled Print Calendar. All you have to do is click this button, wait for the calendar to generate, and it will output for you automatically in a PDF. So from this point, we could take this and upload it back into our project's files. We could open up and preview the calendar, and then from this point, you could print it. It's very, very easy.
Notice that, when you print your calendar, it's of course going to include everything else that you have displaying as well. So like on my calendar, I've chosen to display things like due dates, delays that have been logged. Those, of course, can be turned on and off depending on your preferences. I prefer to have all of those date-related items showing on my one master calendar. So when I do my print, that's going to go ahead and show for us as well.
And it's easy to change what you have displaying on the calendars as well. You'll notice that there is a settings gear or settings icon at the top right. From this point, you can customize what your calendar print options will display once you actually print the calendar.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And now when you're working with printing your calendar, of course you can do that on a project by project basis. So right now we're in our Summit at Smith Square project, and so we're printing the calendar for this job. If we head over to our company calendar, you'll notice that the option is there as well. So if you do need to print more of a master calendar for your company, that same option is here. And if you want to see an example, it's just going to print up exactly like we're looking at on the screen. So it will be, again, a great way to not only do that for your projects, but for more of a higher level company view also. Now, when we're go ahead, Jordan. When we're looking at our company projects, we've also built in really some brand new features and integrations to give us a little bit more insight into our projects and just give you guys a little bit more functionality in terms of some of the tools that you have available. When looking at your projects company-wide, of course, we want to be able to see things like a timeline or a calendar. So we've got that print option for you available now. Another thing, though, that we want to be able to show is where these projects are located. How does that map out? I know many of you, and I worked with one of you guys this morning who was doing projects nationwide, really, all up and down the eastern seaboard, doing projects in Texas, a couple of projects in California. Maybe you're just doing projects within, a city or county and need to really see how those are distributed. So what we've done is actually built in some additional integration with Google Maps that's going to allow us to take the information from the project that you've entered and display that on a map so you can see how your projects geographically sort of spread out there.
Yeah, and you can find the new company projects map by heading into your company overview, company projects menu, and then you can click on this new globe icon here. And what you'll see is we've centered in on one of our projects, but if we actually start to scroll out from the map, we'll see, well, here's a new project. And then as we continue to scroll out, we'll start to see our footprint on the world, or at least in our region. This is an incredible piece to display on a website, or maybe when you're working through client testimonials, you can really show your clients what you're up to in your area. And of course, this is dynamic. So as our team continues to close new projects and as we continue to find new business, we'll start to see this map continue to fill in with all of our active projects, as long as you have an address entered in. Now, this isn't limited to just the United States, of course. We are a global company. We actually are working with companies in over 80 countries at this point, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we're really excited to see. You can imagine the amount of pins that you could see on this map if you could actually see all of the projects all over the world. But for your own company, it's a really great insight that you probably haven't really thought about before. But if you're using Construction Online, go and take a look. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. And it's a very useful tool as well. It can really help you with planning. It can kind of help you understand where you're getting some traction, where you might need to allocate more resources. I know for many of you who have a home office or are based out of one city, in many cases, the jobs that you're working on won't necessarily be only confined to that one location. And so when we're looking at things like, hiring decisions or where we need to bring in more crews or, finding project managers or where to send those and overseeing projects, this really is just giving you some of that additional insight. And Jordan, like you said, it's such a great way to also just show the scale and scope and reach of your company as well. Now, we've also added some additional options in terms of integrating with Google Maps. It's really a great tool, and we've always had the ability to see, those individual projects mapped out. We know that that's being used kind of constantly to just get people to the job site and kind of give a clear indicator of where those resources need to be. It's great to see all of the projects mapped out, but we've also added some new functionality that's going to allow you to import information from Google Maps into your files, into your plan room, really into anything that you might need to use to kind of include an attachment. You can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and again, like all of the other items that we've shown today, we've tried to make it very, very simple and straightforward to actually access and execute. You'll notice that in most places where you can add a new file or a new place where you can upload a new file, you'll see a new option that's labeled Import Google Map. This is going to open up a new window that's going to give you the ability to scan an area to define the project map. Now, we've heard from many of our current customers that have found their way to this new feature that this is actually incredibly helpful in providing a project map and giving your employees and other team members an idea of not only where they need to go for the job site, but really exactly what it looks like from a top-down perspective is a really, really great piece of information to share. And we wanted to make it easy so you didn't have to download some type of screenshot program or figure out how to work inside of a paint program. Because it's integrated, it works very quickly. What you'll want to do is you want to pick a scan area and then confirm that scan area selection. Now, of course, when we're working with Redline Plan Room, there are going to be a lot of additional options that you'll see once you've actually imported the map. So from this point, we can do some very exciting things like mapping out total square footage, or we could go in and start pinning different tasks to different areas from a top-down satellite imagery perspective. Now, I don't know about you out there, but if you have access to your own personal satellite that can take these kinds of overhead pictures, hey, more power to you. But, this is a huge step for those of you who maybe take drone aerial photos but really want to get an even higher view that you just can't achieve with current drone technology. Maybe we'll get there someday, but it's hard to beat a satellite.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And of course, many of you guys are doing different types of things, and different types of information really is needing when we're looking at project planning and kind of that perspective there. So we're wanting to give you another tool in your arsenal to be able to go in and maybe we're just really needing to look at the site and kind of how a potential project site is laid out. It may be that we want to get an aerial view of an existing property to kind of look at the footprint of a building. So there are a lot of great use cases here. Once you have imported that into Redline, into your plan, then you're going to be able to also begin to do some additional things. You can, of course, begin to mark that up, make notes, take measurements, and really be able to distribute that as part of the project packet. Again, a lot of great use cases there, and we see this being used by all different types of contractors, from general contractors kind of looking at, overall site plans, to engineering teams, to roofing teams or solar installation teams. So a lot of great use cases for using that map capability. One of the things too that you'll notice is that in addition to being able to pull in the map, that it's going to convert that into a high-res image. So when you go to Google Maps, if you just maybe try to take a screenshot, you're going to just be looking at kind of a web view there. What we do is actually take the Google Map and convert it into a high-resolution image, so that you'll have more clarity, a clearer picture to work with your map there.
Yeah, and this is really critical for when you're trying to do detailed markups on some type of photo like this. The higher the resolution, the more accurate you can be when you're trying to set calibrations, or when you're trying to make sure that you're highlighting just the edge of one side of a property, an existing structure, or something like that. Now, of course, if you are simply wanting to pull a map into your project, just to give everyone an idea of what the project looks like from an aerial view, you can also do that. It's pretty much the same process. You'll head into your project's files. If you look into the new upload section, you'll want to select cloud file storage, where you see that we've added a new icon for our new option for Google Maps. And of course, once you actually are at this stage, the process is the exact same. You'll open up a rendering of the map, and you'll be able to select the area to begin the import.
You can actually do the same thing anywhere you would attach a file. So you can pull that directly into your file section, just like we just saw in Redline. You can also attach that to anything that might need an attachment in ConstructionOnline. So that could be a to-do list item, a punch list item, a piece of communication, like perhaps an RFI, if we needed to create an RFI and maybe pull in a map there. Anywhere you see this attachments, then you'll be able to follow that same process. So we'll click to add the attachment. We're going to choose cloud, and then we'll choose Google Maps. That'll open up our scanner and allow us to be able to pull in that map view into an attachment there as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different use cases. I'm sure that people watching now are already using their imaginations on how they might want to send this out. But if you ever get a request for an aerial overhead shot of your project site, well, turns out you don't actually have to pay that aerial drone specialist to come out and use his fancy technology. You can just leverage what you have in ConstructionOnline, which is a fantastic, easy option that you can pull off from the convenience of your own office.
That's exactly right. Now, one more thing that I want to make sure we get a chance to cover today. So we've looked at some great changes for scheduling, great changes for project planning, and some additional tools with your Google Map integration. In addition to that, we've also added some really excellent new reporting options for you guys. Again, by popular demand, one of the things that people have requested a couple of times that our team has worked on is really just the ability to be able to print up basic information about the project, and in particular your project team. So when you are looking at an individual project like our Smith residence here, our Summit project, once you are in the project, you have some new options in that main drop down to be able to print both a summary of the entire project and a summary of the project team. So what these are going to do is just allow you to take those details that you're storing in Construction Online and be able to get a great PDF, so that again, if we needed to distribute like a contact list for the project, we've got the project team print, which is really great for that. That's going to list everybody on the job, what company they're with, what their contact information is, be able to show you what type of user you're working with, whether this is one of the subcontractors or maybe company employees involved in the project, and distribute that great contact list.
Yeah, and if we take a look back into the project itself, not only can you print that project team list from the project team page itself, we've also added in a really convenient way to access that as well from the project overview menu. And if you notice, there's a new section for print, as Holly was discussing, where you can print both of that project team report that we were looking at and a new report called the project summary report, which is going to give you a few options before you generate. One of those of which is actually the project team report. And once you've actually created that report, you're going to see something like this. Now, we included all of the options just to give you an idea of how the report will output. Interestingly, just before the webinar, we wanted to give a little more white space here. So we used the edit tool, which can be used on any report that's generated inside of Construction Online. So if you notice something like that and you want to make a quick adjustment before you save or you send this project report, you can do that. It's really, really straightforward. And then you can see from this point, the options that we selected are actually pulling from the project. So instead of having to move through and compile this information manually, now you can just quickly and conveniently generate a new report that gives you a lot of very specific information about the project, makes it very easy to communicate at both a high level with not only your internal project team on where your project is in terms of a few different metrics, but it also gives you an interesting report option for when you're working with clients and sitting down with a client to discuss the current state of their project.
Yeah, one of the great things about this project summary report as well, like you mentioned, is that you can really choose what is showing. So if you're generating this to work with a client, we may want to look more so at, maybe a change order summary or a quick summary of the schedule, and leave out some of the information that we've already covered with a proposal. Or you may want to not include as much detailed financial data or schedule data. So you've got some options kind of depending on who the project summary report is going to be intended for in terms of distribution. It's also a great tool to use for those team meetings. I know many of you guys are having meetings on usually a once a week basis to go over the status of the project, where we stand currently. And this is a great quick report for a project manager to be able to generate, have that information at hand for the team to review. Great to kind of distribute in those meetings so that everybody has a copy to look at. Now, in addition to these project level reports, so your project summary, your project team, we've also added some additional reporting capabilities and some of your favorite features in Construction Online. We'll head back to scheduling and take a look at some of the new reports that we've added here. So one thing you'll notice when you're working in Construction Online is that the different modules or sections that you have access to here, your project tracking, your financials, your communication, all of these are going to have a corresponding reporting section sort of built right in. So this is where you're going to go to see all of your reports and check back often. We're actually adding a ton of great new reports, but there are a couple that we wanted to highlight in this webinar today. Especially again, just because we know that these are reports that you guys have asked for. One of them is the schedule milestone report. So really often we want to, again, print up the project timeline. Maybe we don't want to do the entire calendar, but really just want to look at those milestones, which for many of you guys are going to be things like payment milestones or inspections. This is really going to allow you to print up a really great document showing that information here.
Right, and when you are actually generating the milestone report, you can choose the start date to only include the relevant milestones, things that either have just recently come to completion or items that you were looking ahead to. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use this report. You can generate perhaps an entire schedule milestone before the project even starts, just to give everyone a high-level overview of what your targets are for specific milestones on the project. You can also use this report to show upcoming milestones to give your team an idea of where they need to be and what they really need to be focusing on. This is great for those projects that are starting to enter into that red zone right at the very end, the last, say, 20 or 30% of the project where you really need to make sure that you're executing, especially if you're on a tight deadline and you're really, really trying to make sure you finish on time. And of course, this dovetails very nicely with some of the options that you can use inside of the different portals that we offer for projects. There's an option that lets you show just schedule milestones on different people's views of the project, which is fairly useful if you want to share just enough information about the schedule. Now you can combine that with this printed report to have discussions in different project meetings, depending on your needs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, when you're looking at other reports that you can generate, you can do things like a baseline report or a schedule completion report. So there's a lot of great things that you can do with this information from a scheduling perspective here. And we know that these prints and reports are things that you guys are using. Again, they're great for meetings. And these are things that we're just excited to be able to add into your arsenal here.
Yeah.
Now, the other main area where we've recently added a good number of reports is going to be in your sales management section. So some of you guys may have noticed that within your sales management tool set, you now have not only your lead pipeline and your opportunities. Opportunities recently have received some additional dashboards and filtering options right on this page itself, but we've also gone in and added some additional reports for your lead pipeline and your opportunities.
Yeah, starting with your leads. Sorry, Holly, I didn't mean to jump in, but I'm really excited about this report.
It is a really great report. I know the lead report is something that has been available to you guys for a while, but we've really enhanced it recently with some additional options for how you can filter this report. Not only by things like your status or stage, but by things like your date range as well.
Now, when you actually run this report, of course, the information that's going to pull in is going to pull based on your filters. Now, this is really great for running different reports for maybe sales reps who need a list of people to call, but maybe you want them to get out and hit the road. And maybe they're going into an area where they don't have a very solid internet connection. It's also great for a reference sheet for different meetings if you want to have your own copy of your leads as you work through and discuss your high value targets, those leads that really need your attention and that you can prioritize over leads that are maybe earlier in the stage of your sales process or pipeline. It's a really useful report, and we've had so many requests about working with leads and working with the sales management tools, and we think that this is going to be a great tool for you and your sales teams. And also for those of you who are using ConstructionOnline with smaller teams who maybe don't have a dedicated sales team and everyone really pitches in and helps out with sales. Either way, you can't go wrong with this type of data analysis. We think that you can do some really great things with these tools, even if you're just now starting to use a sales management system like you'll find in ConstructionOnline.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the things that you can get out of a report like this and the flexibility that it offers with the different options are going to be things that will allow you to analyze as a company. So if you're using the lead pipeline tool, we want to be able to look at things like let's look at all the dates all the leads we're receiving from a certain source within a certain time frame. So maybe we want to look at how many new leads overall we've received in July versus what we got in June versus what we got in May. So it's a great way to be able to generate reports for each of those months, compare what you're seeing there. You may also want to take the opposite approach and really base it around your close date. So if you take a look at a close date, you're projecting out when you think that lead is going to close, how much money you think that's going to close for, and be able to get some projections for your company in terms of what might be coming up. And like you said, Jordan, it's also great if you're tracking things like callbacks or next meetings to be able to use those dates as options to filter this report down to really be able to see maybe just a list of people that need a phone call from you or someone on your staff, this week or this month. So great options for this report can really give you a lot of insight into the sales process for your company just within that one tool. Now, one of the other things that we've added in terms of leads is going to be the ability, just like with your project summary, to come in and do a summary report for an individual lead. So if you have a lead that you're tracking or targeting and want to be able to generate a great PDF with information about that specific lead, you have a new option to generate a lead summary, which is going to generate a report. Again, we can choose what we want to include, overall details, maybe related opportunities or different lead events that we've had scheduled. That's going to generate onto a PDF that gives you, again, all of that information in an easy to distribute way.
Now, we've also added a lot of these same reports, or maybe not same reports, but some very similar reports in the opportunities section of sales management as well. You'll find not only can you print an aggregate opportunity summary report that shows, based on the different filters that you've selected, your overall opportunities pipeline inside of ConstructionOnline, but much like the individual lead summary reports, you can also generate an opportunity summary report for, again, those teams that are working to try and close a specific opportunity to actually win the business. It's a really useful report to find out targeted information, things that you need to know like the back of your hand.
Exactly. And, just like we saw with our lead reports, you're going to have options as to what you're including here, so that when you're printing that up, whether that be for a meeting or to distribute to your team, or maybe distribute to someone else in your company that really needs to have this information, you've got a way to kind of customize that report so you can get just the information you need, be able to distribute that easily.
Or just look at it yourself. I think that the report works just as well for someone who quickly wants to scan through some details about an opportunity and get an idea of either things that we need to learn more about from our customer or our potential customer or client, or things that we already know and just want to reference before we actually go and meet with our potential new client. It's a really effective tool whether you're working with a larger team or you're really just trying to make sure that you know exactly what is happening with this potential opportunity. So you're not scrambling to try and figure out, what did we talk about again? It does a really good job of showing you exactly what you know about this opportunity so far and areas that you need to learn about more potentially.
Now, in terms of reporting, especially when we're looking at leads and opportunities and your projects and your contacts, like I mentioned earlier, stay tuned. So these are a few of the reports that we wanted to highlight today. But I will say that adding those reports in for you guys is something that those are appearing on almost a weekly basis, new reports for you and your team to use. So definitely, take a moment to send over a chat if there's a particular report that you'd really love to see us add. I'd love to hear about it. I think that wraps us up for today in terms of what we wanted to make sure and cover for you guys, but I did want to take a moment and really ask if there are any questions. Feel free to go ahead and chat those in. I see that we've had some great questions coming in, and Sydney, as always, has done a great job working with you guys over the chat. But if you have additional questions that you would like us to address, feel free to go ahead and chat those over right now. While we're waiting for those questions to come in, I did want to take a moment just to highlight something else new in ConstructionOnline that some of you may have noticed. You'll notice that as you move throughout ConstructionOnline and you're working within your projects and you're working within your company, you'll start to notice that there are some new icons right here at the top of your screen. Right now, I'm the only person logged in for my company, so that's what I'm seeing here. But what this is doing is giving you some really cool additional functionality. It's meant to show you who else on your team right now is logged into ConstructionOnline and what they're working on. So you can see each of your users logged in. You can see what page they're on, what they're working on. So maybe if Jordan was logged in working on a schedule for the Summit project and I was logged in working on change orders for the Smith residents, we would be able to kind of see that and bring some real-time visibility to who else has joined me online and what we're accomplishing as a team. Now, just taking a look at some of the questions that we're starting to see come through. We'll get to as many of these as we can today. So we do have a couple of great questions here. The first one is, do opportunities allow for us to go ahead and add a salesperson just like leads? So when we look at our sales management area, and that's such a great question, And the answer is yes, they do. So within opportunities, you now do have the option to go ahead and add in a sales rep. That's part of the most recent set of enhancements for this feature that we've added is some of the dashboards that you'll see on this page. Just like with your leads, you have your opportunity stage pipeline. You have some new filters that can be applied, and you also have, of course, the ability to add those sales representatives and track that information right within your opportunity section here in Construction Online.
Right, and not only can you add a sales rep to an opportunity, you can add them straight from the opportunity dashboard itself, and you can filter down to see all opportunities owned or belonging to a specific sales rep. There's some really great enhancements to managing your sales teams or just managing who is responsible for keeping up with specific opportunities. We're really excited to bring this one online.
Yeah, it is. It's such a great set of tools. The other thing that you'll want to note on this opportunities page that's a little bit new is that you can also set your column order and visibility. So depending on the type of work that you're doing, you may find that certain pieces of information are just more helpful than others. And so this allows you to be able to customize that view a little bit. So especially if you're managing a large sales team, you'd probably want to make sure to keep that sales rep column visible, maybe move that over a little bit and be able to kind of keep that front and center. And then like Jordan mentioned, you can definitely either open up your opportunity and set the sales rep there, or you can do it right in line here. Just choose your sales rep and that information's automatically saved for you. Now, the other question that we have, and again, this is such a great question coming in about sales management overall in Construction Online is, what's going to be the difference between a lead and an opportunity? And that's a really common question. And I think the best way to think about that when you're looking at best practices for managing your sales process is that your lead pipeline is going to be full of people, and your opportunity pipeline is going to be full of potential projects. So the biggest difference between a lead and an opportunity is that the lead is the person and the opportunity is a potential job. Again, every company's process is a little bit different, but what I see most typical is that normally what happens is very often, the lead may come first, the contact, the potential client, the person that you may want to work with. That comes in, you're managing that in your lead pipeline. Once you get to a point where we need to go ahead and create a potential job, so maybe we've had some of those initial interactions with the person, we're really looking now at a specific project opportunity, that's when you would then create the opportunity. You would associate it with that lead, so it's very easy. You can just right click new opportunity for this lead. That's going to create that association, and that will allow you within the opportunity to begin building out some additional information, which kind of leads to the second difference really that you'll see here is that within those opportunities, whereas with your lead you're really managing things like making calls to that lead, when those next follow-ups should be. Once we progress and we're tracking a potential opportunity, you're going to be able to come in and go ahead and create an estimate. You can generate a proposal. You can begin storing things like files and photos for this opportunity. So that will allow you to really start to put together that potential project. And then once you win that job, you're able to really easily convert it to a full project in Construction Online. Yep, that's it. So we'll just convert that to a project and keep going. Now, another common question that we'll get there on the sales management is, do you always use both? And usually what I see is that most people are using the lead pipeline and the opportunity pipeline in tandem. I know for some of the commercial GCs that I've worked with, it's a little bit more about the opportunities that maybe they're bidding on as opposed to, leads and contacts. So, again, a lot of flexibility kind of based on the type of work and the business model that you have and kind of really how you're tracking those potential projects and what information you need to keep up with there. Now, we did have another great question come in just to switch gears there. We had a really great question about some of the schedule reports that we offer. So one of you guys has requested to take a look at some of the additional report options, specifically the schedule completion report. I'd love to take a look at that. It's one of my favorite reports to run, because I think that when we're looking at managing a project, we usually want to look at two things. We want to look at what's coming up, what's the plan for the project, what needs to happen, and then of course as that's progressing, we want to be able to take a look at what has been done, and the schedule completion report is a great way for you to be able to pull that information. So that'll just be located under your schedule reports tab here, of course. And what it's going to do is allow you to create a report that you'll choose a date range, and it will show kind of what is happening within that date range there. So if we we'll pull from maybe earlier this year, leave the end date blank, and run that report. It's really just going to scan those dates and help us understand what is being completed within that time.
Yeah, now combined with the new checkboxes, this report should be really easy to keep up with.
Mm-hmm. So you can see here that I've got a couple of different sections on my report, because I do have projects in different phases. I can see a listing of, first of all, my projects that were started during this range, and then the projects that actually wrapped up during that time frame as well. So it'll help me be able to understand which ones are still outstanding and in progress. So we've got some of those tasks completed here, and then the projects that were actually completed during that range as well.
Someone had asked a great question about the schedule view options. Much like the financial view options, if you've worked inside of an estimate inside of ConstructionOnline, you may have seen that you can adjust different column visibility options for different estimate views. Much like that, the schedule view options will maintain per user per login. So what you can do is you can set your view as you would like to see it for your work that you perform inside of schedules, and your colleague can set their view the way that they would like it to be shown, and that will actually preserve. That's stored as your own internal preferences. Something that we think is really convenient. It's very great to set up the schedule exactly how you want to see, and then on the next time you're working in your schedules, you'll be able to see exactly the way that you set it up before.
Yeah, so again, definitely some really great options there on the view, and kind of allowing you to personalize the system to your needs there. Awesome. Well, I think that we are almost running out of time here, and we want to, of course, thank all of you for investing some of your time with us this afternoon. We've really enjoyed being able to show you some of the things that we're working on for you in ConstructionOnline, and definitely want to hear from you. So take a moment if you'd like to chat us over maybe what's on your wish list, what new features have you got your fingers crossed that you're hoping to see in ConstructionOnline soon. Of course, if you have any other questions, or maybe if you're new to ConstructionOnline and would like to really get more of a bigger picture view of ConstructionOnline, or just have some questions about how things work, of course, we're always going to be here to help with that. You can feel free to reach out to us at 800-700-8321. Either Jordan or myself are always happy to help, as are all of our colleagues here at UDA. We love working with you guys, and again, want to thank you for spending some time with us today. Quick note on upcoming webinars. We do have some additional sessions coming up for you here over the next few weeks. Next week, we'll be resuming our Lunch and Learn series for our ConstructionSuite platform, and covering ConstructionSuite certificate and insurance tracking, which is a really great tool to protect you and your company and your projects. The week after that, we'll be taking a look at reasons to move your financial management to ConstructionOnline, why that's going to be better than an Excel spreadsheet. So if you've been kind of still maintaining some of those Excel spreadsheets, want to take a look at some of the differences or benefits of making the leap, this will be a great session to attend. We'll wrap up July with another Lunch and Learn session. So right there on the very last day of the month, we'll jump back into Lunch and Learn and take a look at workflows, which is one of our favorite tools to work with in ConstructionSuite. Hope that you guys will be able to sign up and join us for some of those additional sessions this month. As always, we'll be sending out a recording of today's webinar to those of you who signed up, so expect to see that in your inbox. And that will also be posted on our events page under your on-demand webinar section.
Well, we are going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you all again for joining. If you, again, have any questions, that number one more time to reach out is 800-700-8321. We'd love to speak with you this afternoon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.